Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2020 Kings Draft Party presented by Michelob Ultra. Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. I'm Mark Jones alongside former Sacramento Kings great Doug Christie. Thanks for joining us on this Kings Draft Party, a great night of anticipation as we lead into the NBA Draft tonight, 2020. Doug, an unbelievable night when you think about what the NBA draft is all about, man. I mean, it's all about renewal, about franchises getting that one piece that brings things together. It's about a time for optimism. What are your thoughts on a night like tonight and what it means to teams and players?
Mark, it's big time from a lot of different areas, especially now in this COVID area. Everything is fast forward. December 22nd, the season has started. The draft is tonight. You had the ability to have conversations. We're already seeing trades go down. Then 2 days after that, you actually hit free agency. So this is a time, as you mentioned, of a lot of hope for fan bases. You kind of have to flip things around and move if you're a general manager a little faster than normal, though, because who are you going to draft, but then who might you be able to sign as a free agent? You got to pair those things together. So teams looking to wheel and deal, I think, in this particular draft, Mark, maybe different than other ones, we might see a lot of movement.
Yeah, the teams have had to, like you said, it's almost like speed dating, man. When you meet the prospects, have your Zoom meetings, have workouts, evaluations prior to, when COVID basically shut the country down and shut down the college basketball season. There's a lot of unknown variables out there. When you look at the general public, a lot of us really aren't familiar with some of the college prospects in particular because there was no one shining moment. There was no NCAA tournament where the general basketball public at large finds out about who has an MVP tournament, who wins the national championship, who makes those memorable shots. So in that sense, too, this year is very unique. Doug, what do you remember about leading up to the moments coming out of Pepperdine, going through the process of getting an agent, representation, and then your night before the draft? What was that like for you?
There was a lot of angst, to be honest with you, Mark, because you don't really know what's going to happen. That was a draft with Shaq and Lonzo and Christian Laettner and Jimmy Jackson and Robert Horry, Anthony Peeler. There was a lot of talent in that draft. But like, for instance, if COVID would have happened then, I don't know where I would have went because I needed the National College Basketball Coaches Association. They have a game before at the Final Four and the dunk contest and different things. And that's kind of where I splashed onto the scene. And it was interesting because you got to travel around to a lot of different teams. I traveled, I think, to 8. I only worked out for 7. Boston and Red Auerbach, they didn't think that they could move, so I didn't work out for them. Then you go into the process, and usually that starts a little sooner of getting an agent, Mark. And you sit down with them and you have conversations. They meet your family, and then you kind of have to go with what you feel and who you think is going to represent you the best. It comes down to the night of the draft. You're not going to do any sleeping. You're usually up with your friends, your family. Yeah. It's the excitement, man. I mean, like, all your friends know this is something that you've been trying to do since you guys were little kids. Your mom and your dad know that same thing. And then obviously when the draft comes, a quick story, Robert Horry, who Kings faithful know dearly, his mom was afraid to fly, so he sat at my table at draft night, and then he went like 6 picks ahead of me, so he left me sitting at the table. But yeah, it can be a lot of fun. It is that, but there's some pressure and angst in it as well, Mark.
Yeah, I remember in preparing for the draft and seeing, I've covered many of an NBA draft in New York and in Brooklyn. Seeing the families, it really the gravity of it all hits you when you see mom and you see dad and you see families sitting down at those tables in the green room. And I can remember one draft. I can't remember what year it was, but you remember Josh Childress, who spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
I was doing the interviews with family members prior to the announcement being made by David Stern at the time. God rest his soul. He's departed. Yes, but I did interviews afterwards. But I was in the room before the announcement was made, and I remember when Josh Childress's name was announced, and I can't remember where he was picked, around the middle of the draft, and his mom jumped up. I just happened to be standing next to the family. She jumped up and she hugged me and started, Mom, you got the wrong guy.
It doesn't matter. It's all about spreading the love, baby.
Yeah, it's really indicative of the emotional release and that moment of climax when the name is read and it's this big inhale then exhale, and it really is a life-changing moment. And to be able to be there and to see it and to feel it, and we'll get a chance to watch it tonight. The Sacramento Kings will pick 12, and whoever they get at 12, their life is going to change forever too.
Yeah, when you hear the commissioner, it like it's going to happen, or you hope that it's going to happen, but not until you hear the commissioner say your name, and then everything just kind of goes blank. You don't really remember anything. You walk up to the stage, you're so very excited. You just mentioned that you covered a lot of drafts. So for you, what was a draft day prep like for Mark Jones?
Man, we had a whole bunch of bios from the players. It was prep bio binder about that thick. I'm not kidding. About every possibility, probably 100 different players, the overseas guys as well, and you just kind of leaf through and read all your material and be ready, because sometimes there's that consensus at the top of the draft that who's going to be number one, or who's going to be 2 or 3, but those are the easy ones. The tough ones to be ready for are when you approach the middle of the draft and even the late part of the draft, and you get into the second round of the draft where, Doug, guys are sitting in the stands. They're literally sitting in the stands,
right?
And they hear their name called all the way down, and they come through, and you got to know something on them, and to be able to tell their story and know where they're from and their background. And it's amazing to see, guys, what it means, and you felt it, to walk across that stage and put the hat on and shake the commissioner's hand, and to go off and do about 40 different interviews with ESPN, with TNT, with local TV, local radio. It's really a breathtaking experience to watch. Yeah, I think we have a question, Doug. We're up on
fire in the hole.
Yeah, let's we're up on our site, and we have a question from Gox, I believe it's pronounced, and he says, what do you guys think about Cole Anthony? Doug, that's a great question. We have several guys in this draft who have dads who played in the NBA. Greg Anthony, KJ Martin, Kenyon Martin, his son is in it. Nico Mannion, Pace Mannion, his dad played in the NBA. What do you think of Cole Anthony, a point guard from North Carolina?
I really liked what I saw. He got hurt, and I'm not sure the extent of if he had surgery or whatever with his knee, but for a second there, he was probably the top prospect as far as point guards go. But dynamic, can knock down shots, understands how to run a ball club. And if I actually in New York played with his dad, Greg Anthony, and if he examines or breaks down the game in any way like his father, which I'm sure that he does, he's going to be a heck of a prospect. At this particular time, Mark, I think he's a name actually that's not getting mentioned a lot that might jump up the draft board.
Yeah, that's a great point. He's, you never know with somebody that sat out some of the season because of an injury, but certainly had some great moments at North Carolina this year. And I think anytime you have, basketball lineage in your bloodlines, you've got a great chance for success. And certainly I think Cole Anthony does. A guy that grew up around the game. I saw a lot of his workouts, working out with Carmelo Anthony when Melo was looking for a place to play before he caught on with the Portland Trail Blazers. Cole Anthony grew up in New York a lot of his time, and was working out in a lot of the gyms in New York with Melo. So he's been around the NBA game and is familiar with it. So I think that's a guy that has a chance for tremendous success moving forward.
Yeah, he understands the game, and he knows how to run the point guard position, Mark.
Yeah. We got another question here from Lansmo, who asks us, what do you tell new Kings fans about the team and them excited to get excited about for the upcoming 2021 season, Doug?
More than anything, when you come into seasons, it's about optimism, Mark. It's about where can you go and what can you do? Marty McNair now at the helm, and this is the second year for Luke Walton. Not really a training camp after you went to India, which I think set the Kings back
Mm.
Does De'Aaron Fox take that leap? Does Marvin Bagley stay healthy? Buddy Hield now, is he going to be that starting guard? What do you get in the draft and what do you get in free agency? These are all things that the Kings have to answer. But make no mistake about it, there is some really quality young talent. De'Aaron Fox is on the precipice of taking that leap to hopefully superstardom. He's continued to improve. And if his showing, Mark, in the bubble is any indication of where we're going this year, oh boy, everybody watch out for one hell of a ride.
Yeah, he was spectacular in the bubble. I had a chance to see some of the Sacramento games while I wasn't working down there. And baseline to baseline, 94 feet, Doug. I don't think there's a faster player in the NBA right now, with all due apologies and respect to Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose and John Wall, who's healthy again and playing basketball. But when you look at the pairing of De'Aaron Fox and now the addition of Alvin Gentry to Luke's coaching staff, Alvin is a guy who's very familiar with Luke and has been a big supporter, been together in Golden State prior to their time now in Sacramento. Alvin knows all about 7 seconds or less. He was right there in the embryonic stages of that with Mike D'Antoni. So I would say that, him being the face of the franchise moving forward, that it bodes well for Sacramento Kings fans. And, I find it a really optimistic variable that, the deal bringing in Dante DiVincenzo recently too, to shore up the backcourt. I know that in speaking with some people in Milwaukee, they were really sad to see him go. They really liked him a lot, Doug.
Yeah, I'm extremely high on DiVincenzo. The fact that he plays on both ends of the floor, championship pedigree from Villanova, he's going to score a bucket and he's going to pick his guy up. The one thing that I really enjoy about him is the ability to catch the first move on defense. I talk about it a lot. It's that there's no defense that has a straight line drive. You can put Bill Russell or any Hakeem, whoever you want back there. You can't stop that. And Dante he competes at an extremely high level. Not to mention, he is what really took them to the next level is him coming in the second unit and being better than the other team's second unit. And then he kind of moved up the ladder, Mark, and for a championship quality ball club for a part of the season, he was a starter.
Yeah. He started over 20, I think it was 24, 25 games for the Milwaukee Bucks. And you mentioned him, man, a much, much better than average defender, a guy who's very competitive. I can remember conversations with Mike Budenholzer during the playoffs, said he's athletic, competitive, tough, a winner, great human, humble, coachable, a great worker, professional, defends, rebounds, and good size. So, and I saw him at the combine when he was coming out of Villanova. He lit the combine on fire, man. I mean, his vertical leap was up in the 40s, and very strong, and a guy that will compete. And things looking really good for Sacramento when you put him in the mix. We have another question, Doug, from Emilio, who says, okay, Emilio, one's a little different. He says, Mark and Doug, do you guys collect sports cards? And if you do, your favorite Kings sports card? I got to be honest, Doug. I used to collect basketball cards, but with the moving around, man, I just kind of lost track. I don't keep them anymore.
No, I don't, Emilio. I don't collect, but oddly enough, I have a lot of myself, and I have a lot of my teammates. And I got a Shaq rookie because we were in the same class together. I got a couple Michael Jordans. I got a Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. I got some pretty good cards. They're put away in storage someplace, but I'm not necessarily a collector. But I am a basketball nerd and a basketball head. So if cards come across and I like them, I swoop them up.
Hey, Doug, I wanted to ask you a question. I'm just thinking about, you watch the ESPN previews and you listen to the different draft guys and their preparation and watching them get ready. What advice would you offer up to the players that are going to be drafted tonight? Not only tonight, but in those important days right after the draft, and being able to handle the world as it's spinning around real fast for you. What would you tell them?
Mark, I would tell them it's spinning now, but understand it's spinning on its axis and it's going to go off of its axis, which means it's going to be out of control. I would say stay on your grind. Go ahead and celebrate and enjoy the evening. But that next morning, make sure you're up. Create some goals for yourself going forward, because for a lot of us coming from the inner city, the NBA is our goal. But what's the next goal? Is it all-star? Is it 10 points and shooting 50% and 6 rebounds? Whatever it is, start to lay out a path for yourself and stay on your grind. Do not get off of it. You've made it to your first goal, but there is much more ahead of you. So that would be my number one thing, Marcus. Stay on your grind.
Man, that's great advice, because you see guys, and you can tell. I've interviewed guys draft night, and they're overwhelmed. Like, they really, they're with you, but you don't really know whether they're with you. and it's understandable, because there's so much that's happened. You literally go from being, a college student athlete. When you reach in your pocket, you only feel your leg, and then the next couple of days you're signing a contract worth millions of dollars, and that can be overwhelming.
Mark, the first thing that usually happens is, to Emilio, you sign a card contract. So you get yourself a couple $1,000, $2 to 10 or $20,000. You got that in your pocket. But you're right, Mark. This is the time where everything just goes nuts in a really short amount of time, and you got to keep your head on straight. And the one thing that got you there is basketball. Love it and respect it. The transition from, especially like mid-majors, and all of a sudden you become popular, and then there's like conversations, you might get drafted, and then before you know it, you're drafted. It is a whirlwind, so you got to stay focused.
Yeah, I love to see guys enjoy it, and I see guys and their reactions. I can remember one year, Brandon Knight, he's drafted by the Pistons, and I think he was around number 5 or 6 or 7 in that range. And he walked over, and I remember, hey, Brandon, your thoughts on going to Detroit and going to a franchise with championship lineage? And he was just, he was mad. Doug, I think he was still mad that he hadn't been drafted higher. And I thought, wow, this is a competitive kid, and he's going to go to Detroit and do well as a result. Just one of the memories that kind of linger out there in the basketball universe for me.
Mark, I know you're about your fashion, and I know this about you. And that is one thing Kings fans will see. And we see guys open up their coat. They got colleges. They got pictures of their family. Mark Jones is getting drafted 2020 draft, picking number 1 by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Mark Jones out of York University in Toronto. What you wearing?
I'll be walking up like this, popping my collar a little bit. A little Dolce Gabbana, maybe a little Dolce Gabbana on my shoulders and my legs, and maybe some gaiters on my feet, or some red bottoms.
Okay, I see
Louis Vuitton belt, You got to specialize, Doug.
All right,
and pocket square by Versace, little Versace pocket square.
Man,
there it is. I may not go number 1, but I'll look at it.
Miami's been rubbing off on you.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we got another question here, Doug, from Falcor, who says, who do you guys think will be the biggest steal in this year's draft? Wow. And I know that this year's draft, that's a great point. That's a good question. This year's draft has what they're calling a flat curve, which means there's a lot of depth and similar talent. Who do you think might be a quote unquote steal out there?
I got 2 for you, and oddly enough, both of them are my hometown guys. Number 1 is Jaden McDaniel out of Washington. I think that this kid's 6'10". He's about 200, 205 pounds. He's got to get some weight on him, but offensively, he is spectacular. He has a professional game, and he just needs to land in a really solid situation. And then Malachi Flynn out of San Diego State University, a big shot maker, kind of that combo guard, Fred VanVleet type of guard, I think, in the NBA. And 2 of those guys, I'm really on Jaden, but I love what I see from Malachi.
Man, those are 2 great names. I love those guys a lot too as sleepers. And 2 of the guys that I think of off the top of my head, Mason Jones led the SEC in scoring, a guy that I think would be a really good piece for somebody, because today's NBA is about being able to put the ball in the basket and being versatile. And I like Peyton Pritchard out of Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah, a guy that has made some big shots, a guy that loves challenges, and a guy that's been in school for a few years, and somebody that I think can come in as a late pick and have a great impact. So those are a couple of guys that I like.
I see what you did with the Jones thing there. I'm checking you out. Any relation? Yeah, okay.
No.
Okay.
Hey, but if he goes real high, he might become one.
No doubt.
Yeah. Got another question here from Jay Shot, who asks us, do you personally think the Kings need a 3-and-D wing at number 12 or point guard, Doug? What do you think?
Well, it's oddly enough to that texter, those are the two positions that I identified. First, the elite length at the wing position would be big. You got Patrick Williams, you got Okoro, you got some guys like that. I mentioned Jaden McDaniel. And for a couple reasons, defensively, you got to find yourself somebody that can guard like a Dante DiVincenzo, like a De'Aaron Fox, and bring that side of the basketball game up, but still be able to space the floor and knock down shots. Because to pair it with, it's like peanut butter and jelly. You have a point guard that's going to break people down. There's nobody that's going to stay in front of him. So when it collapses the defense, you got to kick it out and knock down shots. But then you see, and Atlanta has this with Trae Young. When he goes out of the game, Mark, the game falls apart. For the Kings, now Corey Joseph plays a different style of basketball, but when De'Aaron goes out of the game, there's a difference. So a backup point guard would be a big thing to also allow Corey Joseph to school this young player that hopefully when Corey is gone, he steps into that position. And then obviously, hopefully De'Aaron, he just beats the hell out of him every day.
Get a breather, get gassed up, and come back on the floor. And you talk about point guard, and maybe it's a Tyrese Maxey, another guy from Kentucky who is pretty quick going up and down the floor and is a dynamic athlete at point guard. I like one of the names you said. You said Patrick Williams is a guy from Florida State. Devin Vassell is a guy, 3-and-D, that really intrigues me from Florida State. He shot 41.5% on three-pointers. A good defender. That I know Coach Leonard Hamilton, if you play at Florida State, you got to be able to guard people, right? Or else you don't play. And he's, 6'7", good length, dynamic enough athlete. And, in today's NBA, to be able to be 6'7", shoot, and be able to be a guy that can switch 1 through 4 makes you a pretty valuable piece, right?
That is the important thing, Mark, as you just said it, is the switchability, because it allows you to be creative as opposed to allowing teams to really lock in and take advantage of a certain person. Because that's what we're seeing. James Harden, they're looking for a switch, they back it away, and then they attack. You want somebody that can switch 1 through 4. And if you have multiple guys, now it makes me think Dante DiVincenzo, De'Aaron Fox, those are absolutely switchables, and that is good. You pair that with a couple other pieces. Harrison Barnes is another guy that can guard, and you found yourself in the right position.
Yeah, I like also, Doug, Killian Hayes is a guy that's intriguing. We mentioned Patrick Williams, who was the ACC Sixth Man of the Year at Florida State. Devin Vassell,
overseas.
By all accounts, I mentioned he's a great kid, a Chris Middleton type. And Sadiq Bey from Villanova, another guy who's a 3-and-D type player, 6'8", shoots the three-point ball extremely well. They kind of say he's a Tobias Harris type. So there's some talent available, and some guys that could make an impact in that middle part of the draft. And it's going to be really intriguing and fun to watch to see what happens tonight for the Sacramento Kings with Monty Williams, the general manager's first draft. Looks like we have another question here from Bowl, who asks,
this is starting to put a
what are some of the best personality traits a prospect should have? Best personality traits. What do you think, Doug? Team player?
Mark, Yeah,
Coach?
first and foremost, yeah, yep. Do you love the game? You can important things in their life, and but for me, basketball better be up there because this is what you're going to be doing. I think you broke up on me, Mark. Can you got me?
Yeah, I got you now. Yeah, I lost you there for a second.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're good
but
now.
traits are vitally important, Mark. You got to make sure that you're bringing in someone. I need players that love the game of basketball because there are going to be nights where things aren't going good. And if you are involved and you really love the game, that means you want to be in the gym. That is, it is super, super important because some guys are good at basketball, but they don't necessarily.
Right. We're having a little technical difficulty with our connection, but I will go ahead and say, and hope that we're still in contact here, that you can hear me, Doug. I've always find it interesting
Mm-hmm.
how players go through the interview process and how
Yeah.
revealing that actually is in terms of being able to determine what kind of guy you're getting in the draft. And I mean, I've heard some of the questions that prospects have been asked going into the draft by front office people, and some of them are very personal. Some of
Oh,
them are very
yes.
probing, and you really can't blame the front office people from the different teams because you got to find out who you're going to be investing your time in and your resources in, and who you're going to build with. What do you remember about what were give me the weirdest question you were asked as a prospect preparing for the draft by a team?
The weirdest question mark was they held up a picture and said, what does this look like? I was like, it's a butterfly. They put it down, they pulled up another one and said, what does it look like? I said, it looks like a butterfly, but it's the psychological test. Then the Golden State Warriors, I remember this because distinctively afterwards, I was told if basketball wasn't in your top three, because they asked me the top three most important things in your life. And if basketball wasn't in the top three, they said that we mark that person out and we're not going to draft them because it has to be. And I found that uh, really telling because you're right about mind, body, and sport, and the mind is one of them. So you got to get to know. You ask the parents, you ask high school coaches, you ask college coaches, but understand that they are going to write glowing reports as well they should because this is the dream of this kid, but you're trying to get deeper and find out exactly what it is that you're getting. So some of those questions, Mark, yeah, they go deep.
Yeah, yeah. I always think about some of the answers that I might come up with. If I was ever asked that's a tough one, man. Looks like we get another question here from Tattoo, who
Yeah.
says, "Hey, Doug and Mark, who do you think are the guys with the highest ceiling in this year's draft?" And man, it's always tough. I mean, that's the essence of this thing, is trying to predict potential and what somebody's ceiling is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the skill and sometimes the difficulty of it all. I look at some of the bigs in this draft as, guys who have a ceiling that maybe quite isn't developed. Our big guy from USC, in terms of being
Mm-hmm.
able to shoot the ball, if he ever develops a jump shot, then I think he's a player that can do some outstanding things in the league. On the other end of the spectrum, Doug, you look at a guy like Obi Toppin, who's a little bit older as a guy coming into the draft, and some people may feel that his ceiling isn't quite as high. But who's a guy that you think has a high ceiling?
Well, I've mentioned already is Jaden McDaniel. I really think that this is a player that because a lot of times, Mark, what do we see? We see a Donovan Mitchell that gets selected later in the draft. We see
Right.
Latrell Sprewell. We see some of these guys who it's questionable, but they fit the mold of the NBA. Are there some names at the top like Anthony Edwards and James Wiseman? Yeah, those are some guys. One is Tyrese Halliburton, who looks to be
Right.
every part of a professional, but it's not necessarily going to be those top guys. It's going to be somebody, that diamond in the rough that you find that has the ability to improve. The game fits the NBA. They continue to work on their game and improve. And if that happens, that's that upside that we're talking about.
Yeah, and look at the picks for the Sacramento Kings this year, Doug. Picking at 12, 35, 43rd, and 52nd. So a lot of times you can get tremendous value in the second round with guys who have a ceiling that people are going to disagree on, and that's where you can often make up a great find a great asset to your team.
Yeah.
You think about some of the guys through the years that have been second round picks who've been tremendous contributors. I mean, that's where you help your franchise out, especially financially, if you can get out of a situation where you're not locked into somebody for X amount of years in the top part of the draft. You get somebody of value, great value in the second round, and you're rolling for a while.
Yeah, from Argentina, Leandro Bolmaro, 6'7". If you squint, you might see Manu Ginobili in there someplace.
Right.
And he has the ability at 19. I think he just turned 26'7", 182. But that playmaker, slasher type of player, you just don't know. Also, listen to this, Mark. It's where you go, because there are some players that we're talking about. If you go to Miami with that culture and what they have there, the player development is a big piece of this. And that is very important for some of these young players because they're coming in younger and younger, Mark.
Yeah, the organizational culture at some point helps develop players, and it makes them 2 years into their career, transforms them from a 43rd pick into a guy that ultimately sets himself up to be compensated as a top 10 pick and contributes as such. So therein lies some of the trick of the draft. And as I mentioned, Sacramento picking number 35 in the second round. And I know some of the names thrown around there include a guy like I've heard the name Trey Jones, available late second round, guy from Duke, 20 years old, great lineage, blue blood program at Duke. And, we talked just a moment ago about finding somebody to add a little depth at point guard behind De'Aaron Fox and to spell him from time to time.
Yeah, that's going to be important for the Kings. And many times when you find a player like that, that's where you can also use the G League. And right here, you got the Stockton Kings. You have the ability to send a player down. They can even go down and play in the game and then be up the night of the game for the Kings and maybe even get some minutes or sit on the bench and understand what it's like to be in the environment. And it allows them, as a younger player who might not get a lot of run on the parent team, to still continue to evolve. Use the things that you're learning in practice. Use the things that you're learning when you work with the skill and development coaches that the Sacramento Kings have, and now take it down and really use it at that other level.
Yeah, great point. Great point. We have another question from Falcor, who says, what do you think about the top three prospects in this draft? And he says LaMelo, Wiseman, and Edwards. But I ask you, Doug, I'll put this out to you. How would you rank the top three picks in this draft? Because I don't think everybody agrees on the order. I think people might agree on who the top three are. But what do you think about the order of the top three picks?
Well, Mark, when you're talking about the order and you're talking about potential, you may put LaMelo there because this kid has a knack for the game. And that is something that you can't teach. You just pick up from being around the game. Wiseman, as a big player, has the ability to guard and step out and guard a lot of different positions. To what level can he stay in front of twos? I'd probably say even up to threes. He looks very athletic. The big man is different. Can he develop a jump shot and those type of things? And then you talk about Anthony Edwards. I just think that's one of those things where this is a Dwayne Wade-ish type of player if he takes it serious, and this becomes everything that he is about. So it depends on how you look at it. Potential, you might look at LaMelo. If you want the big player that if he can turn into something and develop a jump shot, now you got a transcendent big player. Or you look at that two guard, and that's where the league is out right now with Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards, often described as a poor man's Dwayne Wade, which is a great compliment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no doubt.
If you're a poor man's Hall of Famer, you're doing pretty well. Yeah, or a soon-to-be first ballot Hall of Famer. I know Wiseman, he's been compared to a Chris Bosh type, but even a little bit bigger and a little broader through the shoulders. And he's been working, as Penny Hardaway kind of has, told him to do and advised him to do. Only played 3 games at Memphis this year, but advised him he's got to work on his ball handling and his shooting. And because in the NBA with bigs like that, Doug, that zoom action that they play off, that kind of dribble handoff game, the big guys sometimes initiate. Now you see, Jokic doing it with Denver. You see Bam Adebayo doing it with Miami. That's kind of the new look for big men. And LaMelo Ball, I think, rounds out. I would rank them that way: Edwards, Wiseman, and Ball in that order. But certainly you could take any 3 of those guys and shuffle it depending on the team's needs. And I'm really curious to see if any one of those 3 teams trades down to get out of those 3 picks. I know Golden State has a potentially heavy luxury tax bill coming up, and if you got a number 2 pick on the hook for a lot of dough, then that certainly is a perfect storm to trade down a little bit. But that's part of the intrigue going into tonight's draft. Another question, Doug says, and I don't know if I can answer this one, but Just Chillax asks us, what is your favorite part about the city of Sacramento?
Oh,
You spent a lot more time there, Doug, than I have. So you go first on that one.
Well, first and foremost, the city has evolved immensely. Doco is just blowing up. It's turning into something that it wasn't when I first got here. But for me, it's the fans, man. I've never experienced the closest thing that I ever experienced to this, and you'll understand, is Portland Trailblazers when Jerome Kersey, God rest his soul, was in Duckworth as well, and Cliff Robinson. Man, all of those guys are gone. God bless them. When they were rocking and rolling, to be a Sacramento King at the height of us playing. These fans are as special as you'll ever experience. I tell the players now, you still haven't felt it yet. And when you feel it, you'll know, because you can't go anywhere. So for me, it's the city. I love it and enjoy it, but it's really, really the fans. They are a special, special bunch. Man,
Doug, I tell you, that was and is the way that I've always perceived Sacramento. When when the question comes out about what's special about Sacramento, I think about the passionate fans. I stay up late and watch League Pass here on the East Coast and stay up and watch Sacramento. And even through some of the lean years, the fans have always shown up. And you're watching on TV and you're like, wow, it looks like a playoff atmosphere there in Sacramento in the middle of January or February, and the history there with, going back to old Arco Arena. As somebody looking from the outside in who hasn't gotten there yet, it's really attractive, and it's mind-blowing to see how much they love their Sacramento Kings, and to feel like you are the crown jewel of the city in terms of attraction. It's the old Nino Brown. We all we got, right?
Absolutely.
And the fans react that way, and it's great to see. It's great to see, and I'm happy and grateful to be a part of that moving forward. Jay Shot is going to ask us, Doug, how excited are you guys to see a healthy Bagley?
Oh man.
What do you think?
Jay Shot, you're killing me right now, but I am so super excited. I've seen pictures of Marvin. I talked to him for a moment down at the facility about a month ago. He looked fantastic. It looked like he's getting a little bit bigger, but ever since I saw him, Mark, he blew my hair back, and I don't have any, so I'm just talking about the eyebrows
Right.
because he's a player that's 6'10" that can do every single thing on the floor. Now, there are parts of his game that he needs to improve. The jump shot needs to improve, but you put him on the block, he can score mid-range. He understands how to pump fake, put it on the deck once he's banging on somebody. He goes, grabs rebounds with two hands. He can grab a rebound on one end and dribble up and bring it to the other end. The nuances of the game, the dribble handoffs, the being in the right position defensively, those are things that he has to work on, but every young player has to work on. I am super, super excited for a healthy.
Yeah, I always hear Hubie Brown say, "Your best ability is availability," and if he's available, then the world can be his in terms of basketball. As an observer from the outside looking in, prior, an incredibly uniquely talented big guy that is so fluid, skilled with the basketball. I love the fact, Doug, moving forward, that he can play either the 4 or the 5, and that gives the roster so much flexibility depending on where you want to play him. And being able to just see him for more games and have more volume from him this year is going to be one of the improving parts, I think, of the Sacramento Kings this season.
Yeah, if he was to come out and give you a double-double, Mark, you can pretty much forget about it. This takes the Kings to a completely other level. And if he can start a break so De'Aaron doesn't have to come backwards to go forwards, you hit him downhill, oh, man, watch out, baby.
Hey, Doug, we never went through our a mock draft. Who do you like as who are your top 5 picks if you had to go 1 through 5?
If I had to go 1 through 5, number 1, Minnesota, I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards. I think that with D'Angelo Russell and Cat, he fits right in there, as well as Beasley and some other pieces. Golden State, I'm going to go with James Wiseman. They already have the perimeter. Then they have an interior guy that can help them out. LaMelo, you got that star potential in Charlotte. I think that he would be a good fit right there. And I'm going to go Chicago to Tyrese Halliburton and put a big point guard on the floor at 6'5" to go along with Zach LaVine. And last but not least, Dayton Flyers' very own, keep him in Ohio, Mark. Go with Obi Toppin, my friend.
Hey, man, we actually agree on a lot of those. I got, in my mock draft, I'll go Anthony Edwards.
Okay.
Love his competitiveness, his athleticism and skill. His catch and shoot threes will improve because he doesn't have to worry about going to sociology class now. James Wiseman, I'll take at the number 2 pick, going to Golden State. LaMelo Ball, I think, will go 3. That's who I'd take anyway. Great passer, magician with the basketball. And then I go Toppin at 4 to Chicago. I love a guy who, will give them a little bit more maturity in Chicago as an older guy coming out of the draft. And then I like Tyrese Halliburton. An unconventional looking shot, Doug.
Agreed.
Right?
He knocks it down.
But it falls. And really good ball handler, slick with the pill. And, I think that's a great pick for JB Bickerstaff and the Cleveland Cavaliers in our top 5. So you and I are pretty close on that, partner. Yeah. We're on the same vibe. We got a question here from Triple Double. It says, Mark and Doug, would you rather pick the best player available at our turn or go with the best fit for the team? That's always a classic argument, man. Talent or fit?
Okay. 2 things. The Portland Trailblazers were involved in both of them. You got Clyde Drexler, so you don't pick Michael Jordan. You need a big guy, so you pick Odin instead of Kevin Durant. So I'm going with talent. You just got to figure it out and fit it in and work it out, especially, Mark, in today's positionless basketball. It doesn't matter. Well, the 5 best usually are on the floor at the end, my friend.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if you have I'm with you. I think you go Mr. Triple Double. That's a great question, too. I think you go with talent. This is a talent-driven league. If you amass as much talent as you can, you're going to increase your
Yeah.
chances of success. And that's where the coaching variable comes in. You figure out how to make it all fit and how to make it all mesh. And like you said, I mean, you put your best players on, whether you got 5 guys 7 feet on the floor or 5 guys who are 6'3". In the way that the game has
Right.
evolved, with all the switching, with all the interchangeable pieces, and people playing with pace, I think it comes down to, if you got guys that can dribble, shoot, and pass very well, you're ultimately going to be better off that way than trying to fit a piece into something that might change in the next few days.
Yeah,
we got another.
Mark,
Yeah,
mhm.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
We got another question.
No, I was going to say that's where basketball IQ comes into play at also. So if you're playing smaller, you got smarter guys on the floor, you're able to understand how to move around that.
Right. Got another good question here from Mixales, who asks us, how do you feel about Kyra Lewis? That's an interesting
Alabama.
name. Yeah, Alabama. Shooter, a guy that I think he's only a sophomore, right? He's played 2 years
Yeah.
or maybe 1 and done. What are your thoughts about him, Doug?
I like him. A smooth player, very under control, has the ability to be that combo guard. If you were drafting for somebody behind De'Aaron Fox, that would be the perfect type of player. Can you imagine going from plaid speed, just out of control, right to supersonic? I would call Kira Lewis. He's not quite De'Aaron Fox, but he is super quick and fast. So I like the player. I definitely think defensively he's going to be solid. Where he's going to run into some problems sometimes, and we see this with Fred VanVleet as well. I keep on using him as a combo guard, smaller. When they do switch off, you got to make sure that you got high IQ players that understand when to go double team, get the ball out of his hands, and things like that. But he is a quality player, Kira Lewis.
You know what? And that's a great point, Doug. You talked about smaller guards getting caught in mismatches because everyone's switching these days in the NBA.
Yeah.
I wonder now whether that might be a little bit overstated, because you don't see guards and even some wings with the classic post-up game that guys used to have. I've seen
good point.
Bigs even now that switch and aren't able to take advantage of a guy who's 6 inches shorter than them on the block. Yeah. It's like a forgotten part of the game. What do you think?
I would agree with that. That's where the IQ comes in. So now if I understand how to take advantage of you, I can. If a 6'10" guy gets switched off on a 6'3" guy and he settles for a jump shot, well, I win as a 6'3" guy. So if you are aggressive defensively, if you are strong enough to fight the guy, because what ends up happening offensively when you do make a switch like that, and you've seen this many times, Mark, all of a sudden they really try to start taking advantage of it, and it becomes a sore spot for them offensively because they get out of their flow.
Yeah, that can take teams out of their offense a little bit, and like you said, the defense ends up winning in those situations. Got another question here from Lansmo. Says, Mark and Doug, what does Fox need to do this season to get the respect of a top 15 player? Doug, he certainly has all the tools. Mm-hmm. And all the talent and the basketball IQ. I saw him down in the bubble, and he looked noticeably bigger too. Like he had put on a few pounds and got stronger. What do you think?
So I think it's simple, man. He needs to be able to consistently knock down a jump shot that doesn't allow teams to disrespect him by going under it and different things like that. That same jump shot goes to the free throw line. About mid to high 70s, low 80s would be a fantastic number. And then just understanding how to digest the game. One of the ways that when I watch De'Aaron, when he dribbles off of a pick and roll, it allows the defense to get into him because you can touch him. But if he passes and cuts, they can't touch him. I don't see him use that enough. So just the mindset, and then obviously he's in the gym. Continue to work on that shot, make him put some respect on your name.
Yeah, I love what he's done over the last year and a half with his game, Doug. I remember him as a rookie coming into the league, and it was always 100 miles per hour. I love the way that his game has evolved and the subtlety of his game with De'Aaron, where now he's getting you with the hezzy, and he's getting you with changing speeds. And now he keeps guys off balance so much with those the quick sit dribble where he comes behind his back after going full speed, and he's got a nice midi, or he'll get into the paint and do that. But the way that he's been able to manipulate defenders by changing gears makes his speed that much more lethal. And I really look forward to this year being able to watch him develop that even more.
Yeah, this is kind of how we watch like a tennis game. Boy, man, he be in mid-sentence, man, and he's on one end of the court. And before you can even get to your second part, he's putting the ball in the basket. He is a special player. And his ability, super smart, Mark, super. Right. I can remember the very first year he goes to the basket. And this is like in his first or second game, he gets knocked to the floor. And it was because he went up straight and he got knocked to the floor. After that, he started going up at an angle. The defense would even him out, and that didn't happen that much anymore. And it's a little nuance, and it's a small thing, but for a guy that's really smart like De'Aaron it is a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I look forward to seeing him do his thing out there. I think this is a great year for him to make a quantum leap in a very competitive Western Conference, but I've always seen him as a very high-level competitor, and we'll see how the pieces fit. We'll know a little bit more after tonight. We'll take this last question, Doug, before we say goodbye, and it's an interesting one from Meek Daddy. Meek Daddy asks, how do you feel about starting rookies? Let them develop with the second string, or throw them to the Wolves right away? What are your thoughts on that, Doug?
Hey, man, I come from the inner city and park game. If you can play, you can play. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie. It doesn't matter if you're a 10th-year player. And I've seen rookies come in and beat the hell out of a 10th-year player. So if you can play, you can play. Now, there are nuances that you need to learn in the NBA, and there's no better way than to throw them in the fire and figure it out. I'm one that says if you can play, you get to play on the court.
Yeah, there are it's interesting because there are seemingly some coaches historically who just don't play rookies, or you really have to be that rookie, that transcendent talent to earn rookie minutes. And then there are other coaches who will throw a guy in there and after earning some trust along the way, will get rotation minutes. So I guess it's not a one size fits all in terms of how I see it. And both ways work, both ways can work. And if you're a rookie, I guess the thing is better than anyone, Doug. You can't get discouraged, and you just got to stay ready, whether your coach is playing you minutes or not.
Yeah, in the words of Sugar Free, if you stay ready, Mark, you ain't got to get ready, baby.
Hey, Doug, that's a great note to wrap things up on. Doug Christie, color analyst, former Sacramento King great. Thanks a lot for being on this 2020 Kings Draft Party presented by Michelob Ultra. Michelob Ultra, it's only worth it if you enjoy it. Let's see what the Kings have in store in tonight's draft. We'll see you all soon as we get underway with the 2020-2021 Kings season on December the 22nd. Doug, I can't wait to get going on that. We can't wait to see the fans at Golden One Center. We're going to keep our fingers crossed and pray that we'll get a few of them in the building this year, and that this will be the best Kings season ever. So thanks a lot for joining us on the 2020 Kings Draft Party. For Doug Christie, I'm Mark Jones. We'll see you later.
Go Kings!